egotistically, I couldn't do that. And then the second part is,
What is your background? So like, what are you now? Like, what do you
I'm just
teach?
finished. I teach industrial design. I focus in 3D modeling, rapid prototyping, and biomechanics.
That's pleasant.
So, how did I get into design? I don't know. I'm not really sure. I can tell you that I go way back. I go back before computers, and I had like 1 or 2 graphic design classes, and they were Rapidograph, pen and ink, Rubylith, all of these things that are just no longer exist. And I took 1 or 2 classes, and it was cool, and I had fun, I enjoyed it. But then I kind of moved on, and there was a point where I knew I wanted to go to graduate school, and I was convinced I wanted to go for creative writing. I was convinced, because I was doing a lot of fiction writing at that time. I'm like, this is what I want to do. I had friends who wrote, who went for MFA in creative writing, right? So they were where I was going, where I thought I was going. And they worked in the basement at Penguin Books. They were doing fact checking. So they get this master's degree, right? A really good education in creative writing, and they spend decades just looking up facts for other writers. I'm like, I don't want to do that. So I challenged myself. I said, if I really love writing, I don't need a degree. I'll just keep writing. And graphic design I had always tinkered with, and so I decided to get a master's in graphic design and keep writing. Just it seemed like a good thing to do because it was, and maybe we'll get into this. All I did was play. I was in package design every day. All we did was play. It was 3D comping and going, ooh, what about this or what about that? And I was getting paid. You know, so I mean, design is about play, but it's also about creating and production and making a living. So I figured to get a degree in a profession and then pursue creative writing throughout.
What do you teach now?
Sustainability.
Cool.
Undergraduate, the theories class, methods class, MA project, studio class, thesis for industrial design, but every level, both masters and undergrad for sustainability.
I was always an artist even as a kid, drew on the walls of my house. My mom really appreciated that. I found a can of silver spray paint in my dad's shop, and I grew up, like I said, south side of Savannah. You've got these beautiful oak trees, and I decided I would improve the neighborhood. So basically, it's like I graffitied up everybody's trees in everybody's yard in my entire neighborhood, and I thought it was gorgeous, and I thought they were going to appreciate it when they got home, and they didn't. And so my father made me apologize to every neighbor, and I had to walk around. It took me about a week with mineral spirits, so I eventually got most of it on. But anyway, so I loved art and did things like that, and it helped me to get out of projects in school that I didn't want to do because I would say, can I draw you something instead? And so I'd decorate the walls in the classroom and stuff. But I went to SCAD. I got a scholarship to Armstrong, and I got a scholarship to SCAD. So what am I going to do? Of course I chose SCAD. Why not, right? And my friends that went to Armstrong that went to art there, one is a tax assessor right now. Everybody hates him. And the other guy's a chef. We love him. But anyway, so they didn't learn enough to actually make a career out of their art degrees from Armstrong. So I went to SCAD as a painting major, and then my parents said, we expect you to make X per year, and I said, okay, I'm no longer a painting major because I can't guarantee that. Because Southern mom, dad, you just do what they tell you to do. You don't argue back with them, at least in that generation. You go, okay, yes, sir. Okay. So I changed to graphic design, and I wouldn't say I'm a natural graphic designer, but I'm you could become. Some people are natural and it's kind of innate, and it's like they're like Leonardo type factor, and the rest of us who are good visual artists can become trained to become a good designer. So you can learn, if you have, the visual skills. So anyway, went to SCAD, got undergrad, went to Hilton Head, worked in a printing company. Really some cool stories there, but I'll spare you because I need to shorten this up. But anyway, ended up, economy went into a recession, came back to SCAD for grad school because I caught the computer wave. When I graduated, as Scott was saying, everybody was using because you couldn't find people in industry at that point that could teach it. And so I was using Photoshop like 0.1 or whatever it was, 0.1, 1.5. I mean, that they didn't even have layers. You were doing everything in alpha channels at that point. It was crazy. So anyway, I love working here. I bring a lot of clients into my classroom. I've been here 23 years. I taught mostly in graphic design. About 3 years ago, one of the professors here left, and somebody said, "Hey, you do a lot of social design projects in your classes. Can you teach this class for us over in service design?" And I said, "Oh, what is it, service design?" And I thought it just meant helping people. I was like, "I do that already." And so Robert Val gave me this like pile of books to read the entire summer, and I was like, "Oh crap, what have I got myself into?" But I love it. I'm learning a lot and enjoying being over here, meeting the variety of students from multiple majors, industrial, across the board. So that's kind of how I got here.
That's
Oh, let's see. I mean, I've always made things. I don't think there is a existence where I've ever not wanted to make things or not wanted to understand how things are put together. So I always had a plan for this, honestly. From the beginning, I knew what I was going to do. I knew I was going to make products, make things. So I got into the department in 2005, I believe. So it's been 10 years since I took intro. And there's been a couple of businesses along the way. I started my first business when I graduated in 2008, which was a great time to start a business. That one lasted about 2 years, and that brought me back to Savannah. And then I used my graduate time here to really kind of look at low volume manufacturing and production and how we can really develop products for very specific users. And my product market is high-end cutlery. So I do high-end cutlery and knives. And I've built that for the last 4 years. I've been teaching here for 2, mainly how to turn up what's here into something here. So that's basically my main, I would say, expertise. Although this quarter I have been introduced to teaching intro and also human factors, which has been kind of interesting.
Yeah, Blake is my code.
I'm Blake. What about the design process or mindset would be, in your opinion, most useful or helpful to people that aren't necessarily design majors or designers?
All right, I can step this first. 2 things that I think are most important. We'll start with like design empathy. If you don't understand who you're making it for, you're making it either for yourself, which is valid but a little bit hard to sell, or you're making it for everyone, which is never the right solution. So really understanding your user, putting yourself in their shoes, in their perspectives. That's number 1. The second one is play as much as possible. Build, learn, destroy, repeat. Keep on actually physically making things. I think it's something that with the advent of lots of digital technologies, we're losing just go shut up and make it. Once you make it, we can talk about it. We can break about it, we can test it. But if you don't make that first step, be like, you know what, I'm gonna make this and it's gonna be a failure, I'm gonna learn from my failures, then you're always gonna be slower or more timid.
Yeah, I agree. Iteration. I mean, I don't think people understand how much they need to fail until they succeed. I think it's a real issue. And I think also everyone's in love with that first idea. And you don't understand until you just slam your head up against that wall for honestly years, until you actually develop a kind of understanding of the process. And yeah, iteration. I think non-designers, if they knew how hard it was, I think there would be a different level of appreciation and understanding.
I'll just touch on both of those in terms of having a deeper understanding of the other. You know, like really just understand not what you're thinking or what you want or what you assume, but really trying to uncover in any way you can what other people are experiencing. Certainly, that's been the heart of design, I think, for a long time. From a sustainability perspective, we're kind of shifting that into the public sphere, a different kind of empathy, or let's say a different kind of end goal, but still it's that same process. And then certainly iteration. And and not having the fear. I mean, this sounds so cliche, but it's so true. Not having the fear to fail. I mean, hell, you have to fail. You have to be hungry for failure. You have to be bold enough to say, you know, I think this is going to work. And in all of my efforts and all my objectivity, I'm pretty sure this idea, I can put this thing together and it's going to work. You don't just try it and watch it fall apart in front of you. You're missing something. What else? You know, so those two things are really important. There's a lot more. What was it exactly the question? Tell a non-designer what's important about design? Or
What about the design process or mindset is most useful to
most useful?
most useful and helpful?
Right. Challenge, ask a stupid question. Maybe that's the best way to say it. Just be as stupid as you can be. Just ask, you know, like in any situation. When I say ask, you know, yeah, talking ask, but ask physically, you know, and so it does, it speaks to iteration too, but be willing to be really stupid and try some really stupid things and ask stupid questions, whether they be verbal or through kind of a physical experience. Or if you're out, once again, in sustainability, we're facilitating between a lot of different people, you know, like a contractor, an engineer, and a housing authority director, and they're all protected. They've got to make their money, and they have their reputations, and they're all a little afraid to move because if they say something that they can be challenged on, all of a sudden their whole being is threatened. You know, as a designer, it's kind of like, well, and out it comes a stupid question. Well, what about this? You know, and all right, that sounds stupid, and if the answer on the table is you can't do that, well then ask another stupid question. That is why not?
The only thing I would add to that, and I'll make it short and sweet, that you know, as designers, we're solving other people's problems with other people's money, so we need other people's information. So we've got to ask those questions. So, but
So the next question is, what is the worst design job you've ever had, and why was it so terrible?
Worst design job. All right. So I started a company, and we focused specifically on trying to bridge that gap between people who had ideas and people who wanted to make products. Okay, which sounds so simple, but is ridiculously intensely difficult. Mainly, the issue is people don't have money. That's usually the largest issue. And we worked with a client that wanted to create a specialized rollerblading trike to hold their pet dogs in while they rollerbladed in suburbia America, and trying to explain, you know, exactly what, you know, market share meant, and you know what you would sell products at and price, and basically introducing someone to planet Earth is a very frustrating concept when you're dealing with people who have insulated themselves from critique. So I find that my nature is super abrasive and direct, and I find that people who aren't brought up through the fire and flames of this type of discourse are threatened, and you have to temper that sometimes, and that design job was difficult, to say the least. Made no money on it whatsoever, I can tell you that. I think those are the worst design jobs.
Mine is similar. It's totally my fault. I was doing some contract work. A guy talked to me. He's like, I want to make a trainer or an advancement on shot put throwing. Like, I love this idea. It kind of fits into what I want to do. I'll take this project on. What I should have said is, let's talk about it. Let's make a good contract. And so I didn't. So we talked about things over the internet. I produced things because I like making. I sent it to him. He tested, bring it back, and fix it. And when it came time to make money or receive money, it's not usable. These things are not up to my standard. And there's all these excuses not to pay me money. So there's a quote from the television series Suits: I don't shake hands, I write contracts. So in a way, even though I really like the person and I've made it a point to like the client I'm working with now before I say yes, the contract has to be established, and there has to be lots of dialogue back and forth. That way, their opinions of my work and their expectations are managed correctly.
there's statistics can tell any kind of tale. You can look at the same set of numbers and you can design it in a way that shows one side of the argument, design it in a way that shows the other side. So it's really tricky. And when you're dealing with a lot of complex information, and when the client isn't really sure what they're trying to say. So I did some, the worst, and I can think of probably a lot of bad ones when I was younger and in other arenas, but the one that as soon as you ask, because maybe it's too fresh, is not laying down clear parameters early. In this particular case, like I said, when we're dealing with infographics and a lot of data, you assume that the data they give you is the information, right? The numbers that they give you is the information that you're going to be designing. And I would design with the information that they're dealing with. It's very much like a whole system. You can't just have like a little guy that represents 100 thingamajigs and then use some sort of like heavy machinery that represents something else. It all has to be thematically consistent, it has to be well balanced. And I'd give everything back to them and they'd be like, you know, we don't have it here. And they would bring more information. And so what I did do, a lot of times, so for contracts, you have got to put in, you know, how many kind of revisions are free. Because up to 2 revisions is kind of standard. But 3, 4, 5, and before you know it, you're chasing your tail. It turns into a nightmare, and then everything crumbles. It's
Yeah, it always comes to money. You get screwed over and you learn very quickly. When I was a young designer, just one client I had, I didn't have a contract because he was a person I knew through other people, and I thought he was a really upstanding guy and I could trust him. Never trust anybody, unfortunately, to say that. It's hard to say that, but it's true. So I did the work, just $1,000 job. But when I went to get the money, he writes me a check, hands it to me with a big smile, and I go to cash it and don't think about it. Oi, 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 bounce. All right, I'm like, great. Go back to him and he's like, oh, I'm so sorry. He goes, I was transferring money between my wife's account or she was transferring money. She didn't know that I'd written that check. And here's another one. Stupid me. What do you think I did? I tried to cash it. Oi, 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 again. And now I'm like really, really pissed. I realize I've been screwed over and really been treated pretty crappily, right? So of course I go see him, bam, 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 bam. I won't cash your money order now or I'm calling the police. But I learned one quick thing. One is always be paid I like to be paid in thirds now. I want 1/3 up front. Otherwise I'm not even touching it. If they don't have that kind of trust in me, forget it. They're gonna be your worst client anyway. I want 1/3 in the middle when they approve the design before I actually go on and execute it, hire other fabricators or anybody else. So I want that 1/3 in the middle, and then of course so at that point they've got a lot of skin in the game. They have something to lose. They're going to lose 2/3 if they don't pull the trigger and go with that final third. In your contract, you can put a kill fee in because sometimes you're working for companies and it's almost like a creative exercise for them. And they really don't pull that trigger, so you want to be paid extra. You don't want them to pay you 2/3, you do more work, and then they just kind of pull out and they're done. But anyway, one more quick trick for you. If somebody hands you a check, don't go just deposit it. You can call their bank. So find out what's the bank. You can call the bank, tell them the number. They can't tell you how much is in the account, but they can tell you if it can be covered right then and there, and then cash it. If they say yes, go cash it really quickly.
Things you only learn with a small business.
Speaking of small businesses, Professor Woods, this question's for you.
Mm.
How many knives on average do you make a year? And can you give us a little bit of insight into owning your own small business and specifically one with handcrafted goods?
Okay. So per year, I've kind of shifted around. My peak year was the second year of business, and I did 100 knives that year. I've settled down into like about 50 or 60 a year now, and my prices reflect that. So over the time, I've basically tripled what I used to charge. And that's just, inexperience and not feeling confident in your product. And that's something you gain over time, and you gain that, ballsiness of saying, yeah, $2,000 right now, So it's one of those things. Also, I would say that the way I've structured the business that I have now is very specific and dependent to the customer base I have. So I tell people this all the time. Like, I have, 18 months, 24 months lead for getting anything to anybody if they came to me. And a lot of times I keep my books closed for that specific reason. Part of it is to make sure that I'm passionate about the product. I find that once I get to that point where I'm doing, many runs of the exact same thing, that low volume number starts to not feel like low volume anymore. It starts to feel like manufacturing. And I like to make sure every single piece is the best possible knife I've ever made. So I find that the way to keep passion in it is to keep it new and fresh. And if I keep it new and fresh, that means I keep the numbers low, and I make sure that I put every last bit of myself into it. And that's what they're buying from me. They're not buying steel, or they're not buying this thing specifically. They're buying the story of what's made from, okay? They're buying the process that's required. They're buying the knowledge. They're buying the relationship between this product, themselves, and me. Because when I make something with somebody, I start that type of relationship. So I have difficulty when people ask about how I would apply certain aspects of my individual market base and my business to others, because it's so dependent on who you're dealing with. And I find that we're a much tighter and closer community when you're talking about handmade custom knives in that $1,000 category. So it's a small group of people, and the wait times are definitely different. Now, for every handmade type of product, you're always going to have similar issues of trying to always maintain to make sure that you're not dumping more hours into a product than you're making money. And that's the first thing that everyone makes as a mistake, is they devalue them time so greatly that they get behind the ball and they're never actually able to post that profit number. And I think the other main issue is people borrow so much cash to start businesses, and they start behind in debt so greatly that they're never actually able to post those profits fast enough before they fail. So that's why you see that 80-90% failure rate first year, because A, people are not prepared for how much work it is, and B, they have overextended themselves way beyond. So I started my business from no debt, and I try and keep that as much as humanly possible. So I never like to overextend myself. So I'll limit how much I do in terms of that year, and say no more. I don't like to push myself too far.
This is a question for everyone. How do you believe that the service that designers provide will change over the next few years? How do you believe that the service that designers provide will change over the next few years?
There's so many different kinds of designers.
Yeah, that's really hard.
But I think we're moving very rapidly into the virtual realm. So there's a whole new craft that has to be developed around that. It's starting to be developed through things like agile design, a whole new process of working in teams to prototype software really, really quickly with a bunch of people and with users. So it's kind of like a design process on steroids or on speed, really rapid. Everything that we're talking about earlier in terms of the empathy, it's immediate feedback from the empathy because you're working with the users, and then the prototyping is really, really rapid because you're dealing with software. The software is changing so fast. So, but that's one area of design, because there will always be, I guess you could call them product designers or industrial designers, will always be failures. Maybe, I don't know, that's one response, but there's 1,000 other responses. And then another thing I'd throw on there is giving our secrets away. Design thinking. I mean, that's 20 years old, right? So it's not new. But how many professions actually have some members of that profession really excited about the idea of giving away their process, right? And here too, I'm kind of looking at it from kind of social innovation, sustainability, where one of our primary goals is to help other people design their own lives. So the participatory design, co-design, that kind of space, it's how do you take what either you intuitive, like I think you had mentioned earlier, you're either like born with something that makes it work, or you teach it to yourself, someone teaches you. But then how do you give that to somebody else? No question, right? I mean, lawyers don't do that kind of stuff. They don't do that. Nobody does that. Kind of interesting.
I think people can be more flexible these days too. I think the roles were more clearly defined, and now people are asking to flex. I mean, you now have to be, really great at communicating amongst different peoples and different roles. You have to be able to wear that graphic hat. You got to wear that product hat. You got to constantly be showing yourself as a flexible human being that's capable of thinking on their feet and demonstrating value in that manner. I see a lot of people who are graduating, but they're not specifically getting that industrial design job. They're getting that offset, that slightly to the right or left of it, but they're still in the same realm. I see that a lot.
Yeah, they're hiring for the process.
Yeah,
right?
totally. They're hiring smart people. They're not hiring trained people. You know what I mean? People who can think.
Other countries are getting really good at pumping out not as much talent but skill sets.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got to be, yes, have the skill sets, but also have the mental agility to handle the curveball when it comes on it. To elaborate on your point a little bit, understanding how to run a brand, because a product, you can't sell a product anymore. It has to be so much more. It has to have a story. So understanding all the way through a product has a promise, and that's called its brand. And then the craftsmanship behind it. There has to be a story that's compelling and resonates with the consumer or the customer. It's a better word. There are no consumers. It's like, here, I have this thing, eat, consume that. It has to be more. This is a customer. This is part of my tribe, and I understand how they feel, and I feel like I know what they want. It's back and forth communication, and part of that is you're being an experience maker, which we're all experienced designers. That's a huge package to unwrap, but if the experience isn't good, you can make a gorgeous knife, but if they're clumsy and they cut themselves with it every time, the experience is not good.
And building on that, so you talk about your knives, Will, and that relationship, and as you're making it, you're not just buying this sheet of metal. You're buying something that's much deeper than that. So that level of craftsmanship and that level of connection to the material object, that goes way back. It's not necessarily new, but we've lost that over the last 50, 60 years, I think. And now we're actually looking at it in a much more complex way, where the thing exists not just in your hand and then the consumer's hand, but in like a whole system. So you look at like product service systems, where most industrial designers can't just think about the thing. They have to think about the story, right, and the experience and the brand. But they also have to think about like how this thing makes its way through its own life. Like how it's delivered to the individual, where it goes once it leaves the individual's hand. And so it's really trying to figure out the opportunities that complexity provides as a design.
It used to be form follows function. Now it's form follows emotion, which is a little bit harder to put your finger on.
What is one thing you wish you knew coming out of college?
Design related, you mean? I would, and not to jump in, but I would say the whole client situation, the whole money situation. I think it was trained really, really well as a designer in my
expectation of, oh, well, once I've experienced enough of life and all of this, I'll suddenly have some understanding of what I'm supposed to do long term. But I still don't. I don't think I ever will. I think it's going to be one of those journey destination issues. I think that the concept that one day you'll grow up, you might not. Like, it's possible that you just
It'd
still
be
look in
sad
the
if you
mirror.
did.
I know,
It'd be
right?
sad if you did.
Exactly.
Yeah, you shouldn't grow up. Don't grow up.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say, coming out of college, I really didn't have a plan. I was just happy to have a job. And then I got a job and didn't have a plan, right? And that's not a good thing. I find that, especially with things moving so fast, technology moving so fast, walls are falling, as you guys were saying. You can dabble in multiple things. I like to call myself a designer now, not anything specific, because you can do a lot of things. You also need to be a consultant, but a business consultant as well as a designer. I think it makes you multidimensional and more value, frankly. But I was just going to add about the plan. Have a plan as you go in. Look at people who are doing well in your company. What are they doing? Kind of repeat that, right, to some degree. Or have a plan. Where do you want to be? Just like you should have a plan now to get internships, to help you get jobs, to meet people, make connections. I'm finding that I'm about mid-career at this point. You better have a plan to reposition yourself because technology is not going to stop. Always be planning where you need to be and repositioning yourself. I think to make yourself valid in the job market.
And to that point, like everything is an investment. Your time is an investment. Your attention, your education, your relationships are an investment. So just don't let them go if you don't have an attention for it. It will find its way to Instagram and you're like 50 minutes deep. What am I doing with my life? I'm doing nothing. So know where you're putting your assets as a person. And second one is know when to unplug as well. I really enjoy my job. I enjoy what I do, but there are times where I'm like, I can give as much as I can give until I'm empty. So know when you have to be filled somewhere else. So times in the classroom, gotta get some time in the gym, gotta work on that frustration. If you don't balance that out, something's gonna go, or something to me won't go all right.
Alright, so this question is for Professor Baker. Can you talk about the parallels between graphic design, industrial design, service design, and any other design majors, specifically the thought process and skill sets that you think it takes to be a designer?
Well, I think the process is quite similar. I mean, we all have our specific differences, but we all begin generally with some type of research, whether it's working with a client, getting that research, analyzing it, and then you guys, we're all talking about failing harder up front. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. And I tell my students, I make them all the time, so don't be afraid. You should too, and that's where you get your best ideas, or at least you have something to talk about at that point. Per se. So as far as similarities, I think what it comes down to, no matter what, if it's furniture design or I guess you could be a service designer or industrial designer, what your customers want is custom. That's what people pay for, whether it's a knife or some other product or a graphic design or a plan. They're paying for custom. They want something that someone else does not have, and that's why they need you. And that's why what you do is valuable.
This is from Wilson. How do you see the future of 3D printing and sustainability being tied together?
There's a lot of talk about the circular economy, where we change the way we work. Right? Presently, we imagine it. We just believe that there's this amazing store of raw materials. So products require raw materials, and we think not really where those raw materials are being extracted from, and what that is taking away from, right? Because it's coming from somewhere, and that somewhere changes as we take, and then this linear process of manufacturing, using, and then disposing. We have this whole world that no other species has, that is called this thing called waste. I mean, it's truly unique to the human species. We have to change that. So I think when it comes, 3D printing is a very interesting arena. So the circular economy is about nurturing an economy, right? Businesses and design enterprises that close the material loop, and that could be for any kind of product. And when I say close the material loop, it could be something like this, but it doesn't mean that just because it's this now, it's going to be like this in its next iteration. It's matter. And the 3D printer, I think, we'll see. I mean, they're printing houses now, right? So, I mean, it's advanced very, very quickly. I think the 3D printer has an opportunity to actually, at home, isolate that closed loop. So there might be a time when, you know, I don't know if you, this would be a great exercise, you know, do a catalog of all the things in your house. And then make a list of materials that those things are made of. I mean, just in your minds, imagine your apartment, and imagine, you know, I was going to say CDs, you guys probably don't have CDs, but I get a bunch of them, you know, there's that, there's furniture and lamps and sneakers and this and that, all of these materials. Well, imagine a time when you're tired, or, you know, like the sneaker's got a hole in the bottom, or maybe your sock has a hole like this one, you know, or you're tired of it, you're just plain sick and tired of it. That based upon its materiality, you could put it in a different part of that 3D printer, and it would be the feedstock for the next thing that you want. So the closed loop would be reimagining what the feedstock is. Right now we're buying spools from virgin plastics, right? And it's oil from the ground and all kinds of additives. But imagine if the feedstock was right there in your house. It'd be kind of a fascinating thing. So it's you're like creating your own new reality directly from your own old reality. Or, you know, maybe you go over your friends and you borrow them. You know, right? Like, hey, how about those things over there? Do you need it anymore? I'll trade you. That's you're borrowing it. And maybe you trade something that you have, or maybe you trade something that you're going to make out of that. Now imagine a gift. You know, you take your old buddy's sneakers, put it into a machine, maybe there's 3 different materials, you decide the next form made from those materials, and you give them that gift, and it might be totally different. Maybe it's like a camera shell. Who knows? Big possibility.
Right. So most of you have worked with students at events outside of the classroom. What shocks you the most about what the students experience and what they're bringing to the table at then, and what do you wish they would bring back into the classroom?
I'm not sure I understand that.
Okay, so most of you have worked with students outside of the classroom, so whether it's at a design camp or you do an experience in Brazil or studying abroad, what shocks you about what they're doing out there, and then what do you wish they would bring back to the classroom?
It's the same thing, right?
It's true.
Right?
Yeah.
Whatever shocks you, what?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
I'm gonna just show up and expand on that one just a little bit. So there is no like spiritual secular divide. Life is just life. And so playing, football with friends, you could extract that back to design project. You would start to understand the spatial properties of how to create space, how to occupy space. It's the same thing with design. Space is science proximity to space, how close to these things are, like the text, the kerning, all that things. That one, and we're just people like y'all. I feel like there's like a student mode and a teacher mode, and then there's a person mode, and I really don't like the whatever it is between the formality. I can't remember anyone in my very short upbringing that changed my life because they were overtly professional in the way they engaged me. It's always been personal connections that have touched me and caused me to change. So just, we're just people. Y'all just people. Just talk like people. And I don't know, bring the random aspects of our lives and just like be passionate about something. If you love it, love it as much as you can. And if I don't like it, if I can see you're passionate about it, then I can be on board and we can start running down some rabbit trail.
So one interpretation of that is what I'd like to see them bring in is everything and anything that they don't usually bring in of themselves. What would shock me or shock me? Nothing. But maybe that's because they're not sharing their shocking secrets. So I don't. Was that the question? Like,
Yeah, it's like
shocks
what
you about what
shocks
they
you?
do? There's so much time, and I know I'm going to sound like an old guy now. Yes. But see, I can't say that everybody's doing that out there. You see people walking down the streets, and it's which is interesting because there's a world in there. I mean, we don't know that, right? But it's like this. Hey, want to go hang out? Want to go get a beer? Want to So that's kind of weird, is that experience, although it's understandable because it has such depth and such richness and such opportunities to customize. That's kind of frightening. But I wouldn't say that shocks me.
Let's see. So when I was coming through school, you were just starting to see the ADD medication kind of generation. I'm like right at the ground beginning of Adderall and Ritalin. And there's a name for everything now. Every social awkwardness out there, there's a disorder for it. So I find that people label themselves very strictly in terms of their capabilities when they're capable of so much more. And they like build these walls around themselves of, oh, I have this problem and I can't overcome it because it's got this very scientific name that we all know, and I'm on medication for it, and I'm very stressed about it all the time. And I don't know whether it's just an issue of perspective, but I just don't remember seeing that so much, and now it's just like in your face constantly. Everyone is seeing a psychologist. Maybe I should now? I don't know. I don't know. I just feel like pressured to be on some type of medication. I don't know. It seems like everyone's got this figured out in some way. But yeah, that's different for me. I just never saw that before.
I would say my experience of working with students outside of SCAD is mostly when I'll take them on a design trip. And I think nothing has shocked me, but I like to see that the students have kind of shocked themselves. In a sense, they tend to segregate and kind of work alone a lot, or at least in graphic design. Not so much over here, right? Everything's team sport. But what's cool is when you're collaborating together with other creative professionals, and you can say, hey, you're better at that than I am, like photography or something I'm not. You are good. Can you get that for me? Or can you illustrate that? Can you do that graphic design? Or can you do that furniture piece we need? There's some magic that just tends to happen when you have creatives with different perspectives and different specialties come together, and they see how much they can do in 3 days. It blows their minds, and so it's magic. And I think that shocks all of us how good it was when we worked together.
Alright, so this is the last question on my sheet. Is this the last question? No? Okay. In what ways is beauty objective and where does it come from?
That's a more technical
So smart. What ways is beauty objective?
And where does it come from? Or where does that come from?
There's no way to tackle that. That's just, it's such a subjective thing. Everyone has this, we're always, don't say good or bad, and they're value statements. Everyone's values are different, yes. But I think things are innately beautiful. I think when you see something that's gorgeous, everybody knows it. I think it's something you can't hide, but I think chasing it is something you can't define as well. It's one of those difficult non-words, to me at least. I'm always chasing that greener hill, more beautiful, hotter thing. And I don't know. Maybe you never stop. I don't know. Again, I have no answer for it, no definitive answer. They asked me when I was 21 what my design, theory of design was when I was graduating, and I laughed. I can't believe I was supposed to have that figured out. That seems like way more than I was really ready for, and I think I still am, honestly. So yeah, beauty, I think you guys should handle that one. I'm good.
The where does it come from thing, maybe I'll start there. I don't have an answer, but there's some interesting thoughts out there about how, I don't know if you guys have had this experience or not. As you get older, I hope you do, and I'm sure you will. There are times when in the most unlikely situation you meet somebody and there's really no reason for you to get along with them. In other words, you haven't spent 6 hours with them talking about your past or anything like that. You spend maybe 20 minutes, or maybe a little more, what have you. Maybe it's in a loud environment. In other words, it's not conducive to a deeper knowing kind of thing. As you get older, and I'm getting older, there are certain times when you meet And there's something that is so, it might sound corny, but so deep in terms of an understanding or an appreciation of where that person is coming from. It has nothing to do with gender, it has nothing to do with age, it has nothing to do with profession. It has to do with conversation that brings you into a space, and you can sense it sometimes. They feel it too. And you usually leave it unsaid because you would be really embarrassed if you say something and you sound like an absolute idiot. But those, I'm saying this is something that is momentary, but then throughout the course of life, you meet them again, there's something there's a deep connection that cannot be explained, so I'm not going to try to explain it. However, there are some people who say, this is just a rock in space. There are people who say that we are all dust, we are all made from dirt, if you will, and that something within the molecular makeup of us was connected at some other point. And now this is what some people say, and that there's a recognition of that molecular commonality. So, and so there are all kinds of, we don't have to go there. I guess all I'm saying is that when you have these moments, and they do occur, that's beauty. That's beauty, right? So where is it coming from? We have no right to know. All we need, what I would say is all we need is reverence for it. That's it. We just need to respect it, and we need to be able to say, that's beautiful. And so that gets right down to, more superficial aspects of beauty is, the Fibonacci series and all of that. Is there something within growth patterns throughout nature that recurs at many different levels, molecular levels, larger and so on, that there's a sense of proportion? I can find that. That makes sense to me.
I'm gonna sound like Forrest Gump.
Carl Sagan.
Beauty happens. It does. The only condition, if it does happen, you just have to keep your eyes open. Because I notice even myself, I can get into certain funks and certain moods where everything is awful. It's opposite of like the Lego song. Everything is awful. And until open your eyes or like open your heart, whatever metaphor that sounds like a K Jeweler commercial. If it's there and you see it, you'll know and you'll appreciate it.
Alright, so Ben Bush,
Yeah.
there's a rumor on the street that you're pretty good at freestyle, so why don't you throw down a rhyme about time and design? That was pretty fine.
That was pretty good.
I tried.
I thought we were gonna ask more about why do I use it, but we can do it. So I've been really interested in the idea of complimentary rap. So, and one of my favorite people to compliment is Will Woods, in fact. So, Will Woods,
I'll
you
take it.
are a man.
Thank you.
You have always been a man.
I have.
Every woman will always know you as a man.
Hopefully.
Your hair looks like it was dipped in some type of Kurt Plus mixture. It's so gorgeous, I would hang it from the ceiling as a fixture. In fact, it's so nice, I want to get a Facebook picture. Your face is so cute. So much cuter than Kevin Federline. My only wish is that you would be a friend of mine. Your shoulders are so broad and so strong. Gosh, you must be in the gym like all day long. I want to be your workout partner, but it's already taken by King Kong. Your abs are totally mathematical. They're so chiseled. They're so in line. It's not even practical. There's more chisel in Heisman's cabinet, and that fact is factual. Your thighs are somewhere between mountains and meat pies.
Okay.
You know what rhymes with unbelievable thighs? You have the cutest eyes. And those feet, they seem to always bring good news. Gosh, how do I choose? I heard good things always happen in twos, or maybe it's threes. I just want to appease your sensibilities. Heck, I would get down on 2 knees and maybe sneeze if I had a cold. But this is getting old, so I will fold this boy shut.